beautiful people. So today what I want to bring forward is something very interesting and makes a lot of sense that is happening right now in the world in general, but how I have witnessed it here in New Zealand, and a reconnection to ancient traditions, older traditions, and how they are starting to take on a new meaning. So on Wednesday night last week, I went and participated in the Matariki Noho, which is the night sleepover to honor Matariki at my younger son's school. And so the reason why we stayed the night is because that Thursday morning, the 20th of June, marked the return in the dawn sky of the Matariki star system, or the sisters star. And they, in the Western tradition, or across the world, more commonly known as the Pleiades. When I first moved here, I was really stricken that a whole culture was so in tune to the movement of the stars, in particular to this constellation that is known in the spiritual world, connecting us to a galactic species called the Pleiadians. Now, in none of the Maori stories I've heard do they refer to the people. They refer to the essence, the guidance they receive from, but I feel that further development into the origins of those stories might reveal more, but that's not what is coming to the surface at the moment. Nonetheless, that the whole culture would mark their new year based on the return of these stars in their sky as guidance. They would welcome them with a hangi at dawn, where the smoke rises up to the stars and kind of feeds them in a way, welcomes them back as guides for the upcoming year. And I feel that this is bringing to light that we have always had a connection to the stars. We have always felt a belonging not only to this planet, but to the stars in our sky, to the galactic aspect that goes beyond what happens on our planet. And that can be seen as the connection with Sirius, the Orion's belt, some of the more known, more normalized references. But the fact that these are known, part of the history and the culture of humanity, strikes me as part of this return to our awareness that we are not, definitely not alone in this universe, and that there is a connection to be made that is galactic. And in honor of that, I know this is not relating to the tradition of Matariki, but this is how I choose to perceive it. And in honor of that, the question I want to ask is specifically directed to the Pleiades, and knowing that at the same time as crossing the threshold of this Maori New Year, we also crossed for New Zealand or the Southern Hemisphere, the winter solstice, and Northern Hemisphere crossed the summer solstice. So I want to specifically address this question to the Pleiadians and ask them, what is their message for humanity at this time? What does this threshold of the new Maori New Year or of the solstice is bringing? What is the message that they have for us? And this is something I try for the first time, and so I have no idea what will come through. So bear with me and let's explore that surprise together. Dear ones, we are so honored to be invited into this conversation to be invited into this space to speak our message back to you. We are as you are, marveling at the resurgence, the remembrance of Earth's galactic connections, of Earth's place in the greater cosmos, of its influence, but not only, also of its connection and collaboration with other civilizations, other beings, other species. There is, you can feel this current of resurgence. It's no longer a questioning, it's more of a remembering and a knowing as these notions resurface and as specific movies, specific currents, specific thoughts come to the surface. There is a realignment that this is the natural order of things, that slowly humanity is beginning to remember that it cannot make sense without the presence of other beings, similar or different, inhabiting the whole of the universe. And we are grateful, touched, we are honored to be some of the beings, the energies that humanity remembers having a deep connection with. We are honored to be remembered by you. We are honored that the traditions that remember the connection we have be brought back to the surface, back to the public eye, back to the awareness of the younger and older generations. This exchange of awareness, of energy, of information, of respect is at the base of how humanity reclaims its space in the field of the galactic space. By that we mean remembering. It is an honored part of the multiples of civilizations and communities that exist as part of not just this solar system, this galactic environment, but this universe as a whole. There is signs of a return to a certain level of pride in belonging to this wider, great, elevated community. And we know that as we speak these words, very chaotic experiences are taking place on your planet, that very conflicting energies are at play. But we entreat you to remember that the rise of these energies is a positive thing. And you may doubt our words by witnessing images, but feel into our words the peace and the coherence that we want to convey. For what is happening is a release of energy that has been kept, held close to the heart, in resentment, in anger, in frustrations that have not been named. And humanity is learning to name what it feels. It is learning first to realize that it feels precisely, clearly, and multidimensionally. Now that is key. So there are levels of ways to feel. We feel the brightness of a sunshine day. We feel the ease of a drive without traffic. We feel the weight of the workload as you walk into your workplace. You feel the stress of a meeting about to happen. You feel the sadness for your son's loss of his last sports game. And all of these things are happening within you at the same time. And even if your focused awareness is not actively pointed in that direction, when you hear someone talk about their son, it's reactivated. When you hear someone on television describe their work environment, you connect to the weight of your work. And understanding that all of these feelings exist simultaneously, and that you can be happy and yet have points of sadness and stress and excitement for all the different parts of your life, because you are not a single linear entity. You're a 360 degrees multi-layered person. And to take that into account, to understand that some emotions are expansive and others are heavy and carry a weight, and that there's a possibility for you, when the energies are carrying weight, to hold them and allow themselves to show a different aspect, so that it may make sense and fall into place, because when it does, it is no longer heavy. The process that humanity is going through is making sense of all the different layers of information that are read, that are received, that are decoded at once, and to make sense of them. And it comes through primarily through the experience of feeling. And humanity is remembering that it feels. It feels connected to its roots. It feels more connected to the stars. It feels more connected to nature. It feels more connected to the ecosystem of the planet. It feels more connected to the idea of abundance, of freedom, of expansiveness, of possibilities. And it wants to walk towards that some more. In order to walk towards that some more, humanity has to make sense of the pockets of tension that it is holding, of the unsaid things, of the closed off emotions, of the buried thoughts. It's not saying that all of the tensions that are held will become conflicts, wars, and atrocities. It is simply that humanity is learning to understand that harboring the colors of the rainbow of emotions is valid, and that it carries a message, and that it is not necessary to express that message violently, even if the emotion that is felt is anger. This is the process. And when humanity has returned to a state where it understands that it is a feeling being, that through the feeling is decoded so many layers of interaction and understanding that is precise and individual for each person, that it relates relatively to that person, then the theme of sovereignty and agency will come back to the forefront. And when humans embody agency and sovereignty, then we can once again contact, connect, and be partners in collaboration in the greater alliance of the Galactic Federation. There is so much movement that is undergoing within the planet to release these pockets of information that have been misunderstood because they weigh, and so they have been closed off, crystallized, held back because they could not be made sense of. And you are in this phase where all of these little pockets are coming to the surface so they can be made sense of, and so they can be perceived differently, they can be received and finally find their place in the harmonic whole, so that humanity's signal, humanity's frequency as a species becomes coherent and stable. And when that occurs, more and more possibilities to interact and communicate with the other galactic species becomes mainstream, becomes normal, becomes part of the everyday life. It is not something to be scared of. It is not something to fear, to be wary of. As humanity will notice, it is the natural unfolding of understanding life. Life does not stem from Earth. Earth is part of life, and life exists all through the universe. And to become again a participant, an active, aware participant in the movement of life through the galaxy, through the universe, is one of the main goals that humanity has set itself eons ago. And you now are taking the steps to return to that state, to accomplish this goal, this dream, this desire that was programmed in the original design of humans. And we are extremely joyful, enthusiastic, encouraged, and welcoming of the steps that are being taken. We hold humanity in our space of peace and harmony until humanity itself can hold that energy on its own. This is our message from our heart and to yours. We are the Pleadians. I hope that this message reached you and that it made sense for you. If you have any questions about what was shared or something you want to ask in regards to this, please don't hesitate to put it in the comments below. And I wish you a beautiful day.